Good afternoon, dear participants of the third Edge Computing Workshop. Edge Computing Workshop is a peer-reviewed international computer science workshop focusing on research advance and application of edge computing, a process of building a distributed system in which some application as well as computation and storage services and provided and managed by central clouds and smart devices. The edge of network in small proximity to mobile device, sensors, and users, and other are provided and managed by the center cloud and a set of small in-between local clouds supported at the edge. The main mistakes when submitting the article were first is inconsistency of the submitted works with the term of workshop and inconsistency between the content and title of the article. The main language of the workshop is English, and all accepted articles were independently reviewed and recommended for presentation at our workshop. So, 12 articles were submitted for consideration, and 9 of these were accepted for presentation of the result during the workshop. Today, the time of are not easy in our country. There is a war, but we scientists do not stop and try to continue working. We are glad to welcome all of you in our workshop. So we wish everyone fruitful work and interesting discussion. And I invite to speak with Director for Scientific and Pedagogical Work and Youth Police, Olena Denisuk.
Thank you. Good day, dear colleagues. Good day, dear participants. Today, for me, it's an honor to be here and have the opportunity to open this conference, this workshop. I'm glad that all of you are here. Today, I know that we have more than 30 theses, yes? And I hope that today all of you will have a really productive discussion, and all topics are this discussion will bring you new scientific ideas maybe, and in the future you will write more interesting and more useful thesis and scientific work. Thank you very much for your active position for our country. Today, unfortunately, we have war in Ukraine, and our brave army defends us every day. We hope that our victory will be soon, and we will have meet here in our university in offline regime, not online. And I hope that this time will be soon. Thank you very much, and I send you best wishes from our university. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And our workshop will take place as follows. So we will include a video recording of the author's presentation, and when the report is over, we invite all workshops participants to a discussion and questions. So, listening to the first authors, our first authors who present main result of research is Olena Naumchak, and I play now his video.
For your attention, a presentation on the topic, an analysis of approach to the fake news assessment based on the graph neural network. The importance of the information skill of confrontation in modern wars has grown significantly in recent years. Information technologies are becoming one of the most promising types of weapons. Every year, the scope of its application increases primarily due to its ease of use. The Internet is used to share propaganda, misinformation, manipulation of facts, including fake news. The experience of the Russian war against Ukraine showed that the enemy widely uses the capabilities of the global network to share negative psychological influences as a means of waging a hybrid war. The availability of online media, the rapidly growing of number of sources of information, and the ease with which they can be used to share information quickly lead to the problem of viral spread of fake news. Knowledge graph is a modern and unique tool to represent knowledges in a machine-understandable form. Knowledge graphs are currently used in such fields as information search, natural language processing, semantic technologies that allow using the semantic load of data in the analysis, machine learning, generation of new knowledges, etc. The use of knowledge graph is the feat of processing natural language text can allow to automate the process of monitoring the information space. The purpose of the study is to analyze the approaches and choose the most effective one for building a knowledge graph for detecting fake news. Having a certain text as the input, the first task is to highlight the named entities and the connection between them, combining the received facts into a graph. As example for visualization, Wikidata knowledge graph can be used. Each node is an entity, and each connection is a relation between entities.
Sorry, it's technical impossible. This video are low for video records. So next presentation will be more um, better in the quality.
Entities. This triplet, entity, connection, and entity, is the simplest form to describe graph's features. Knowledge graph can be presented in two ways. The first is an ontological representation that based on formal logic and semantics, and the second is a vector representation, uses a statistical mechanism to minimize the distance between close entities in multidimensional spaces. The main difference between these approaches is that the symbolic representation implies the recording of facts using symbols, while in the vector representation, the essence and the predicates are projected into embedding space. The disadvantage of methods based on shallow learning is transductivity. The model learns vector representation for nodes once and must be retrained every time the graph changes. Also, the disadvantage is that wandering around the graph is random, so the model will produce different results each time. Graph neural networks are free from the mentioned shortcomings. The main idea of GNN is to build a computational graph for each node, the features of which are determined by the features of its neighbors through a non-linear aggregator. GNN are capable of processing graphically structured data. Other types of neural networks work with tabular data, image data, or text data. Graph neural networks allow prediction to be performed both at the level of nodes and at the level of edges. This allows us to predict certain properties of unlabeled nodes based on other nodes and their edges. As for the age, the prediction of the occurrence of connection between the nodes in the future can be performed. GNNs can classify nodes or predict connection in a network by studying the embedding of nodes. Such model can be used, for example, to solve the problem of detecting fake news. Three-stage approaches to the analysis of fake news using knowledge graph is described. At the stage 1, coding the titles of the news. At stage 2, identification of named entities, coding of individual objects using knowledge graph. And at stage 3, classification of news. Based on this, we have the following steps on the GNN model. Embedding nodes is done using several rounds of message passing. Then combining nodes embeddings into a single graph embeddings. And after that, classify training based on graph embedding. The existing models of graph neural networks and areas in which they are applied were considered and shown at the slide. The architecture of the GNN model is shown at the figure. For experiment to study the application of the proposed graph neural network models, was used the dataset User Preference-Aware Fake News Detection. This dataset consists of 20 million fact-checked fake and real news stories received and distributed on Twitter. Notes of the data set are characterized by 4 types of feature: held due to use of pre-trained models of the transformer, word-to-vec, and from the profile on the Twitter account and their comments. The data was split into 2 datasets, the training sets and the test set. The solution was built on the basis of Graph Convolution Network, Graph Attention Network, and Graph Sage models. Models were trained using cross-entropy losses with class weights. They are evaluated according to the average accuracy measured on the test sets. The selection of hyperparameters considered of the type and number of GNN convolution used for node embeddings, the activation function, and the learning rate. GNN models were trained for 100 epochs. The results obtained during the model training are shown in the table. As can be seen from the results of model training, the best results were obtained when using the Graph Sage model. The advantage of this model, compared to the other GNN's model, is that it uses only a set of fixed size formed by uniform sampling for aggregation. Therefore, the issue of analyzing messages from online mass media for the purpose of detecting fake news remains relevant and has become more acute in the condition of large-scale war. In order to timely identify and respond to the negative impact that spreads through such messages, it's necessary to improve monitoring system. Knowledge graph can be used to supplement training samples for machine learning algorithms, which allows improving the performance of application with a limited amount of training data. For example, system for analyzing the tonality, sentiment analysis of messages to determine the level of negative impact. Since the knowledge graph contains auxiliary factual information about the elements contained in the training samples, it helps to expand its functionality. This addition increases the accuracy of classification during fake news detection. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you for interesting report. We invite everyone to take part in the discussion. Maybe someone want to ask the question in the chat. Who want to ask the question to our author? Please. Please.
Tell me, what is the role of knowledge graphs in this model?
Good afternoon. Thank you for your question. Knowledge graph in this model uses at first 2 stages in our proposed approach. At the stage 1 to encode the title of news, and on the stage 2 to encode the entities extracted from the text. And the finishing stage we use the GNN model. Knowledge graph also uses for training our models because the knowledge graph has larger structure, and we can train our model more better.
Thank you.
Who want to ask some question?
My question?
Yes.
What do you think? Is it possible to acquire the importance of information warfare with electronic warfare in the war between Ukraine and Russia today?
Thank you for your question. I think this 2 warfare very important in modern war because Russia used information war 10th year before the invasion into Ukraine, and electronic warfare is very important during the battle on the battlefield. It's two another parts of our war, but they are important enough and equivalent.
Thank you.
Thank you. Maybe some question I ask you. What is the advantage of using graph neural networks instead of other types, such as convolution neural networks for the given task? Thank you.
Thank you for your question. Convolution neural networks use structured data such as image pixel grid or tabular data, and at that time the graph neural networks can work with unstructured data, so-called data from non-Euclidean domains, such as graphs. And additionally, there is unfixed node ordering, which complicates the use of convolution neural networks. This is the main advantage of GNN, graph neural networks.
Thank you. Who has questions for the speakers also? No. That's not a question. Thank you. Thank you for your answers. Thank you for your interesting report. And we now invite the next author to speak. The next author is Dmytro Morozov. You are here, Dmytro?
Yeah, sure.
And his article and his presentation.
Hi, my name is Dmytro Morozov. I'm from Zhytomyr Polytechnic State University, and I like to talk with you about honeypot and cyber deception as a tool for detecting cyber attacks on critical infrastructure. From the beginning of Russian invasion in February 24, 2022, Russian hackers launched a massively destructive cyber attack against Ukrainian government, financial sector, and technology combined. The State Cyber Protection Center of Ukraine recorded 2.8 times more cyber incidents through 2022 than in 2021. From that time, the war in cyberspace as a component of war on the ground caused significant change in both the number and direction of the attacks caused by war. Along with significant number of directly or indirectly state-sponsored groups, APTs, a significant number of threats have emerged as a result of pro-Russian activism. They added a lot of work to cybersecurity specialists. An example of such activity is search of the DOS attacks, defaces, sporadic and poorly coordinated attacks on administrative institutions, which mostly had a psychological impact and try more to cause chaos in society than to cause directly economic or military damage. We see emerge a smaller, more nimble hacking and ransomware group, and their toolbox can increase in further year. One of the future trend for cyber attacks in 2023 may be active use of AI technologies such as ChatGPT, which will provide a large more hacking teams with a tool to carry out attacks previously unattainable to them due to lack of skill or experience in implementing such attack. Such challenges make it necessary to make rapid changes in the work of both state and private institutions in the field of cybersecurity and to look more efficient way to counter new threats. It is the speed of adaptation of new approach and the implementation of best global practices that in many ways made it possible to avoid greater losses and devastating consequences of cyber attacks. The analysis, study, and systematization of information about the algorithms, methods, technologies used in this attack is an important factor to building a flexible and adaptive cybersecurity system, both at the state level and at the level of individual enterprises and organizations. The main goal is to gather more data about the early stage of attack, detect preparation or the start of an attack at the stage of scanning, reconnaissance, and first scanning of port. The main task of research is to choose the optimal type of architecture of honeypot or honeynet for observation of evolution of the toolkit of Russian hackers with the discovery of new methods and tools. Low interactor honeypots are a simple and convenient way to initial detection of automated network scanning tools and various botnets for search of vulnerabilities, but they have a significant drawback. Their limited functionalities is a serial unmasking factor for professional cybercriminals. However, we can still use them as a means of detecting automated intelligent attempts in IoT networks due to the much smaller numbers of services used by devices in such networks. Highly interactive honeypots can emulate much more complex behavior and may be suitable for misleading an experienced cybercriminal or an advanced botnet. However, in absence of intra-network traffic between the elements of high interactive honeypots requires the use of their combination. An example is a complex TPOT honeypot. As you can see, TPOT consists of 22 low interaction honeypots, and you can choose which vulnerabilities to use and which honeypot to use for detection of some activities of cybercriminal in your network. Or we can use honeynet technology for emulation of real network as realistically as possible. As you can see, such complex honeypot consists of many advanced low interactive honeypot, and we can use them for better detection of cybercriminal tactics. The use of both highly interactive and low interactive honeypot require highly qualification from specialists who deploy and use them. Attackers are constantly looking for a way to detect such system early. For many of the most popular honeypots, they already have a detection tool, and this creates a need of further improvement of such tool for detecting cyber attacks. The next evolution of honeypot is honeynet and cyber detection technology. Cyber deception technology is allow you to emulate more complex behavior and look more believable to experienced hackers. The use of advanced technique of creating artificial vulnerabilities, monitoring traffic in the network and its individual nodes, allow slowing down the movement of attackers in the network and recording the behavior in detail. This makes it possible to use the collected information for better understanding of the tools and algorithm of behavior of cybercriminals and the evolution of their tactics. Both now, during active phase of war and during the post-war reconstruction of Ukraine's infrastructure, after our victory, the threat of critical infrastructure from Russian hacker will not decrease. The toolkit and tactics of Russian cybercriminals and their sympathizers will evolve and develop. This makes it necessary to find the effective means for research and study of their actions and tools. Using of combination of low interactor honeypot to emulate the operation of IoT devices of critical infrastructure networks and cyber deception platform to protect enterprise network can provide necessary information at the early stage of appearance of new threats from cyber criminal. Right now, our team is in early stage of research, but we will try to move to practical implementation of our ideas and, as a result, obtain a practical result in the shortest period. Thank you for your attention.
This article presents an overview of the futures of using honeypot and honeynet solutions and cyber deception for general purpose networks and industrial IoT networks. So who won't ask the questions for the speaker? Please.
In your opinion, which of the current law interactive on board can be applied for use in municipal IoT networks?
Sorry, I don't hear the question. Can you repeat?
Which of the current law interactive on board can be applied for use in municipal IoT networks?
Okay, thank you for the question. It could be a single law interactive honeypot like Cowrie, Dionea, or it could be a complex solution like Teapot when we got 22 honeypots, which would be deployed on some network on some cloud, and we can use combination of this law interactive honeypot for all of them. But we have deploy this complex honeypot with understanding that it would be remarkable for cyber criminal if we use all of that honeypots with all of that vulnerabilities. It would be a very remarkable sign that this is a honeypot, and they wouldn't start their attack because they would understand this is a trap.
Thank you.
Thank you. Who want to ask the question also?
Yeah.
Please.
Do you have scientific articles in the field of cybersecurity?
No, this first.
How many?
First, this would be first.
Thank you.
Thank you. Who wants to ask the question also? Okay, may I ask the question? Do you think intelligent systems such as ChatGPT will become a tool for detection of honeypot in the hand of all criminals?
No. While this tool is using Razor in primitive form, but I expect that in the end of the year, ChatGPT or similar AI system will be integrated in some system for honeypot detection and will be used cyber criminal, because we already have integration of ChatGPT framework for this purpose. We already have some ChatGPT integrated in honeypot system. So obviously we would see integration of ChatGPT in something that would be used for detecting honeypots and honeynets.
Thank you. And are there already exist honeypots that use ChatGPT themselves?
I see one honeypot like that. It was buildable. That was deployed in late of December 2022, and it's used by some researcher for research purposes.
Thank you. Maybe someone want to ask the question. So if we know question, we are thank you for your answer, for your interesting report. And now we invite the next author to speak. It's Arsen Petrosyan, and I turn the video.
Dear colleagues, we present a report on the topic Algorithm for Optimizing API Controller Model based on a digital filter using a genetic algorithm. My name is Arsen Petrosyan, and I am a computer science PhD student of Zhytomyr Polytechnic. The problem of effective control of technological processes, robotic systems, aircraft, and other technical means remains relevant for many industries. For this purpose, regulators are used in many areas of science and technology. Controller tuning can be done in several ways, including obtaining controller parameters in an analytical form. However, most of these methods are designed for analog PID control and are not suitable for digital because its model doesn't exactly match the PID controller. And accordingly, the optimization of the digital PID controller model is relevant. The purpose of the work is to refine the digital PID controller model by using a digital filter. To achieve the goal in the work, the following task must be solved. To analyze digital filters, suggest a filter type for the PID controller, choose a fitness function to optimize the filter coefficients, calculate the filter coefficients for the PID controller model. In general, the control system for any object has the form shown in the picture. The time domain control algorithm is implemented in accordance with the expression shown on the slide. An example of the frequency response of the regulator is shown in the figure. For coefficient P is 10, coefficient I is 1, and coefficient D is 1, 2. The following are expressions for a digital PID controller. Both expressions are equivalent. The second expression is in recurrent form. Now let's compare the AFR of the differentiation components of the analog and digital PID controllers. It can be seen from the figure that the differentiation component is nonlinear, especially in the high frequency range. This slide shows the relative error of the differentiation component of the frequency response of the digital PID controller, which exceeds 35%. If you look at the differentiation component, you can see that this is a first order FIR filter. To reduce the error, let's increase the order of the digital filter. The finite impulse response filter has the following expression. FIR filters have the following advantages. FIR filters can be linear phase. FIR filters are always stable. For FIR filters to be linear phase, the impulse response must be symmetrical or antisymmetric. In this case, 4 types of FIR filters are possible. For our task, the best solution would be to use type 4 filter. The synthesis of the filter with the best uniform approximation will be performed in the form of the problem of minimizing the weighted Chebyshev norm. A genetic algorithm was used to find the optimal digital filter coefficients. Genetic algorithm is a heuristic algorithm which is a kind of evolutionary algorithms with the help of which optimization problems are solved using methods of natural evolution, similar to natural selection in nature. The following sequence describes how the genetic algorithm works. First, generating an initial population. Second, calculation of the fitness of chromosomes. Third, selection of initial chromosomes solutions with the best fitness values for creation a new population. Fourth, performing the crossing operation. Fifth, performing a mutation operation. Sixth, calculation of the fitness of chromosomes. Seventh, if the stop condition is met, return the chromosome with the best fitness value. Otherwise, go to step 3 to process the new population. When solving a problem with a genetic algorithm, it is necessary to isolate the phenotype that determines the real object. In our case, the filter coefficients that will form an individual will act as a phenotype. Our digital PID controller model will look like this. FIR filter coefficients for the developed model of digital PID controller model, shown on the slide. The data in the table shows that the higher the order, the more accurate the frequency response. The next slide shows the frequency characteristics of the differentiation component for 1 and 6 coefficients. There are also the relative errors provided. The graph shows that even when using only 1 coefficient, the error decreased from 35% to 22%, and for 6 coefficients, the error was 2%. On the next slide, you can see the dependency of the error of the differentiation component on the number of coefficients. It can be seen that L between 4 and 6 is sufficient for solving most control problematics in robotic systems. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. So we're listening the interesting report about the problem of constructing a model of digital PID controller which can be used in robotic systems based on microcontrollers and programmable logic integrated circuit in concept. It is proposed to use digital filtering methods as the basic for the regulator, and the digital filter coefficient are calculated using a genetic algorithm. This approach makes it possible to improve the accuracy of the model to ensure the calculation of the PID controller coefficient using classical methods for an analog PID controller. So, who has questions for the speaker? We invite everyone to a discussion, and who can question? Please, Roman.
Yes, I have a question. You said there are 4 types of linear filters. Why do you choose the 4th type?
Yeah, thank you for
Just
question.
the 4th type.
Yeah, thank you for questions. So, if you look on the initial PID controller model, we will see that its D coefficient part is actually already looks like fourth model, so it's asymmetric. So the first coefficient is 1 and second is -1, and it actually has two coefficients, so it means it's even. Yeah, so it looks like it fits the best.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your answer. Who have questions? Please, Oksana.
Thank you. Your model, the digital PID controller, has become more complex, so the calculation time will increase. Does this mean you need to use a faster process? Thanks.
Thank you for the question. So from theoretically, this algorithm as was O1, it keeps O1, but practically, before we have 3 components, and we have to calculate it 3 times more than with new model. And the new model has 5 components. So before we will need 9 operations per amount of time, and now we need only 5 operations per amount of time. So practically, it should be even faster.
Thank you. Who has any question?
Can I have one more question?
Yes, please.
What crossover method do you use in the genetic algorithm?
Thank you for the question. So initially, genetic algorithm, initially, genetic algorithm uses bitwise operations, but they are not possible with number with floating point. So scientists found 2 crossover methods. It's blend crossover and simulated binary crossover. And we tested them and used simulated binary crossover method.
Thank you for your answers, and we invite everyone to take part in the discussion. And now we must invite the next author to the speak. Author is the minute. Later. We will start the presentation, and our author is Evgeny Shapovalov, and his article in the TEM and academic event subsystem of UREs and its ontology representation to improve scientific usability and motivation of scientists in terms of European integration. Oh, yes, Evgeny is here, and we start him presentation.
My name is Evgeny Shapovalov, and it is a pleasure to me to present our new development, an academic event subsystem of the URIs and its ontology representation to improve scientific usability and motivation of scientists in terms of European integration. First of all, I want to say that this is conceptual development. However, there is some practical developments that are working on right now. We will talk about it later in the end of the presentation. First of all, it is important to highlight the problems that is relevant worldwide and especially in Ukraine, and this is data processing in the field of science. Actually, as all of you are scientists, you know that there are a lot of data that requires to prepare reports at the end of the year, to prepare some documents related to scientific process such as obtaining PhDs, such as ranks in science, and it all requires a lot of data to prepare. However, the state of informational systems provides possibility to automatize all of those processes. Especially, there is a problem of low quality of conferences in Ukraine. Yeah, there are a lot of conferences that are held in Ukraine, and its low quality related to lack of reviewing, to providing conference proceeding only just to have some achievement but not to share the results. Also, it is a problem related to information in the field of conference providing, because some conferences are pretty highly impacted. However, as they are not commercial, and therefore they have lack of advertising, and not all scientists know about it. Also, there is a problem of predatory conferences. It's important to provide some managing of the field of conferences and creating the platforms that will solve all of those problems. Currently, in the world, there are existing systems such as NARCIS or CIRCIS or ResearchFire that are related to this field. However, it was not that Ukraine have its own specific background, and it's required to have our own system. And also, those system was built and developed years ago, and not all of the modern technologies are provided there. Therefore, it is important to develop our own system called URIs, and it will provide managing of all data related to the science and its subsystems that will solve problems with conferences. Let's talk about the URIs in general. It is a system that provides obtaining data from open source databases to simplify input of the data, and in addition, it provides access to scientists and administrators of institutions to manage this data, and for example, to correct, to review, and to verify the data that was obtained from open source databases, and also to add new data to provide fullness of the data in the URI system. URI's concept foreseen that it will have an edge approach that is based that data is processed in different machines, and in the local level it will be processed on the institutional machines in the different other systems, and scientific personal machines of the scientists, business and governmental services who will require this data, and it will be processed in their own systems, and URIs will also have connection with them to collect. However, as we noted before, it is important to create a subsystem related to conferences, and here is main data types that will be collected in the system, and it is important to say that this is just conceptual development. What is science exactly have to do just to make concept, and computer engineers will provide development of such system. We have analyzed a lot of conferences, and here is the list of the most important fields that could be used in the development of conference subsystem of the URIs, and its direction, date of submission, dates of event, submission methods, for example by email or by digital system, fees, additional fees, for example you can pay for publishing of conference proceeding, and additional sometimes it's required to pay for certification like this. Details of payment is just to simplify a way how it is possible to provide payment, contacts, event type, event description, probable indexing, publication format, publisher, publication type, and related events links, and event program. Here is a more systemized view of the data that I noted before. It collects all necessary data that was noted before. However, this is conceptual development, and in case if and when it will be realized in the practice, some modification could be provided. Here is the role model of proposed systems. There is a scientist who is preparing the submission, who is holding the participation in the event, conference provider who actually provides this conference, institution administrator, government representative who manage in general policy in this field, and administrator in the of the URIs who is observing how the system is working, and he also could provide some managing on approval or declining data that is publishing on the conference. This is important to provide high level of the data accuracy and fullness. Also, it is important, as ontology is also could be divided into the branches or fields. It is possible to provide API which will generate ontologies, and this ontology will provide links between fields and different conferences. And it's worth to know that it is possible to have a lot of links for one conference. For example, the conference ITER, It had the section related to pedagogy, and also it had the section related to computer science for sure, which is coming from its name. For example, this is the way how DOORS conference is represented in this ontology, and it is possible to just systemize and structuring of the conferences using such ontology. Also, the data should be provided in easy to read and structured form for scientists, and this is a Telegram channel where the data is structured and shown in easy to read way, and also there is using of text that simplifies searching of the conference that's required. For example, you can use text Scopus and it's easily shows the list of the Scopus conferences. So it is important to provide synchronizing between between systems that we want to develop, and also such practical tools that are already exist, and this is all could be through the APIs. So if you have any questions, here is the mails. Thank you for your attention.
Yes, thank you for the interesting report, and we invite everyone to take part in the discussion. Who has questions to the speaker? Okay, I have a question. How do you think your research will influence the development of edge computing?
Hello, sorry, of actual what?
Of edge computing.
Oh, edge computing, yeah. The concept foreseeing that some computing will be provided in the local machines, and in some terms, computing in local machines and then integration in general system may be foreseen as edge computing. Here we provide detailed reviews, also proves it, and therefore implementation of such model will significantly simplify computing at the national level, and it will ensure in local machines to simplify.
Thank you. And is it considered your system, your development, or that of other developers?
Is on the basis of national state library, and it was developed few last years, and this year the proposed system is also developing. We are giving recommendation in terms of scientific projects.
Thank you. And how can you access it?
Sorry.
How can you access it?
Access it, yeah. There is a web page called Nauka Go.ua. It is open right now, but for today you can use only entities like institution and science and infrastructure. And in future there also will be conferences.
Thank you. And what basic functions does it provide?
It provides optimizing of science data and providing in business processes that are going on in science in any form that business process requires.
Thank you. Who have questions yet? No? Please, good luck.
Please, what quality indicators of the proposed model do you see? Quality indicators.
Of the proposed model?
Yes.
Okay, it's fullness of data, it's quality of data, and it's status of validation by representative of institution where scientists and publication and conferences are going on. So it's quality, its fullness, and its state of verification.
Thank you.
Thank you for this interesting report, and I want to say that this article is part of research of edge computing, because edge computing is a modern approach that may be considered as a collection and processing data near the source of its generation with future cloud computing. Therefore, the data processing that collected, distributed, and future collected at the central level may be considered an edge-based approach. We thank you for your article. Thank you for your answers for our questions, and we now change our program, and the next author is Andrei Repko here. Yes, yes, we will skip one report because authors don't link about us, and we now listening Andrei Repko and his report at the term cluster fault tolerance model with migration of virtual machines. 1 second, please.
Dear conference participants, ensuring high reliability, fault tolerance, and continuity of the computing process of computer system is supported by combining computing resources into clusters. It is based on virtualization because of moving virtual resource, services, or applications between physical servers while supporting the continuity of computing processes. Fault tolerance is a property of a system what allows it to continue to act correctly in the event of an error or failure in some of its parts. Modern systems for processing, storing, and transmitting data for various purposes, including cyber-physical and communication systems, are subject to high requirements for reliability, security, fault tolerance, and low cost of implementation and operation. Modern virtualization technologies are based on the target migration of virtual resources between physical servers to adapt cluster system to the accumulation of physical server files. When migration virtual machines, a cluster can share data storage with virtual machine virtual disk, which speeds up the migration process by migrating only the main memory, virtual processor, registers, and virtual device state of the virtual machines. After any physical server fails, other servers can run virtual machines using virtual disk located on shared storage. In this case, the status of the virtual machine is lost, including data in RAM, register of virtual processors, and external devices. Therefore, the system takes time to initialize the virtual machine and bring it to a pre-failure state. For the correct operation of this virtualization mechanism, it is necessary to ensure the isolation of physical servers after a failure to exclude the simultaneous execution of the computing process by two virtual machines after a reboot to prevent data ambiguity in the shared storage. The purpose of the authors of the article is to build models of cluster system would allow assessing the impact of the virtualization process on their reliability. The considered models are focused on substantiation, the choice of the structure and discipline of servicing and restoring a cluster, taking into account the requirements for implemented applied tasks and virtualization mechanism. A cluster is understood as a group of interconnected resources, servers, information storage, devices, etc., which is perceived by the user query solves as a single resource. Clusters are created to assure high availability, fault tolerance, and system performance based on the consolidation of resource. An example of cluster when combining two servers is shown in figure. When clustering a group of servers, there are options for organizing cluster with different redundancy. Options for combining servers are and storage clusters are shown in figure. In a fully permissive topology, figure A, each storage device disk array is connected to only one cluster server. The n+1 topology, figure B, means that each storage device disk array is connected to two cluster nodes, which one redundant server connected to all storage devices. In the cluster pair topology figure C, nodes are grouped in pairs, storage devices, and attached to the both nodes of the pair, and each node has access to all storage devices, disk arrays, of the pair. In a full access topology, servers and storage devices are connected through switches, figure D. The system can be expanded by adding additional servers and storage devices to the cluster without changing existing connections. The probability of failure-free operation of the structures depicted in figure with the same number n of servers and storage devices, provided that at least one server and its associated storage device must work in the system is respectively found from the system of equations. Consider a highly reliable cluster implemented with virtualization technology focused on maintaining the continuity of the service computing process. A failover cluster in the simplest case consists of two physical servers, primary and backup, with high-speed network interfaces. Each server has one local hard disk drive connected via SATA or CIS interface. A distributed storage system with synchronous data replication from the source server to the backup server is deployed on the local disk of the servers. The cluster is running a virtual machine in failover mode. The system assumes the launch of a shadow copy of the virtual machine on the backup server, which allows, after the failure of the main server, continue the computing process on the virtual machine of the backup server without interruption. For fault tolerance cluster system, we take the non-stationary availability factor K and the non-stationary availability function kt as a reliability indicator system update rate. Consider the case when the failure rate t is a function of time. Figure 9 shows the Markov graph of the restored element, the mathematical model of which is a system of nonlinear differential equations. If you build Markov models of system fault tolerance consisting of several renewable elements, when the state space of the model will increase. The system of differential equation with respect to p, t, e 1, 2, n show on the slide 10. In the general case, it is difficult to obtain an analytical solution to a system of nonlinear differential equations. Therefore, it is advisable to use numerous methods for solving. For example, MATCAD has a built-in function rkfixed, which is considered basic and implements the four-order Runge-Kutta method with a fixed step. The state and transition diagram of a failover cluster with online recovery when implementing virtual machine movement is shown in figure. In the figure, the health states of the cluster, healthy states without failed nodes, are indicated by vertices circled with a solid line. Repairman fixed solid line. The virtual machine mark at the top of the graph indicates the server on which the virtual machine with the virtual service is currently running. The top crossed out with two lines means the failure of the node with one line, the state of the node in which it currently not functioning and accordingly does not fail. To find the state probabilities from the given state and transition diagrams, system of algebraic equations are compiled when estimating the stationary availability factor of differential equations when estimating the non-stationary availability factor. As a result, the simplified Markov model of cluster reliability, without taking into account the impact of reducing the availability of the cluster and the cost of migration virtual machines, respectively, leads to an upper estimate of the system reliability presented in figure. The system of differential equation corresponding to the state the transition diagram shown in this figure. The results of calculating the coefficient of non-stationary availability of the cluster for the models corresponding to the diagrams. Thus, a Markov model of the reliability of a failover cluster is proposed, which takes into account the cost of migration virtual machines. A simplified model of a failover cluster has been built, which neglects the cost of restarting the migration of virtual machines. A significant impact of the reliability of a failover cluster, estimated by a non-stationary availability factor, is shown by taking into account virtualization mechanism, in particular the migration of virtual machines. Thank you for your attention. We will be grateful for your questions.
Thank you for your interesting report. And so in this article, Markov model of the reliability of a failure cluster is proposed, which takes into account the cost of migration virtual machines, as well as mechanisms that ensure the continuity of the computing process in the cluster in the event of a failure on the physical server. As a result of migration, 2 copies of the virtual machine are maintained located on different physical servers, so that in the event of a failure of one of them, they continue to work on the other. So, who has questions for the speakers? Please.
What optimization criterion was used to minimize cluster errors? What optimization criterion?
Thank you for the question. Yes. A non-stationary factor, the possibility what the system at a certain point in time is ready to perform the necessary function. It characterizes the readiness of the object to perform the necessary function at an arbitrary time, which is close enough to the moment of a critical change in the state of the system before the operation, after prevention, testing, reconfiguration, or recovery. A non-stationary availability factor is applied when the stationary mode in which the probability of states depends on time has not yet been established. In general, these indicators depend on the failure and recovery rates of the system elements, the time of its continuous operation, and the type and frequency of redundancy.
Thank you. Roman, please.
I have one question. Were the bandwidth properties of the network kernels taken into account in the model, in your model?
No, it was not a model variable. It is assumed what the cooperation of cluster nodes is coordinated through a high-speed dedicated line or through a local network through which messages are exchanged. The remark is quite valid because the speed of data transfer in the network is a significant factor. Therefore, in the following models, we will conduct a computational experiment taking this factor into account. The joint work of cluster nodes is coordinated through a high-speed list line or through a local network through which messages are exchanged.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Further questions?
My question. Tell me, what is the main idea of using a cascade approach for the composite detector? What is the main idea?
The main idea is based on virtualization because of moving virtual resource servers or application between physical servers while supporting the continuity of computing processes. As a result of memory migration, 2 copies of the virtual machine are maintained, located on different physical servers. So what in the event of a failure, and they continue to work on their own. The results obtained can be used to justify the choice of technology for ensuring file stability and continuity of the computing process, computer system, or cloud architecture. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I have one question. Is the question, what is the non-stationary availability coefficient which should be taken as the main indicator or reliability in your work? Thank you.
Thank you. Non-stationary availability factors, the possibility of the system at a certain at a certain point in time is ready to perform the necessary functions. Each characterizes the readiness of the object to perform the necessary function at an arbitrary time t, which is close enough to the moment of a fixed change in the state of the system before the operation, after prevention, testing, reconfiguration, or recovery. A non-stationary availability factor is applied when the stationary mode in which the probability of state depends on time has not been established. In general, this indicator depends on the failure and recovery rates of the system elements, the type of its continuous operation, and the type of frequency or redundancy.
Thank you. We thank you for your interesting report and thank you for your answers. And we now invite the next author, and the next author is Evgeny Turyansky. Are you here? It's not here. And if there are no answers, author, sorry. We will skip these reports for now and move on the next author. The next one author у нас Mykola Romanchuk, and his article Object Detection Method based on aerial image instance segmentation received by unmanned aerial vehicles in the condition route for visualization. 1 second, please. Sorry. Не туда зашла. У мене ж дійсно збилося все. Object detection. Yes. Yeah.
We offer you a report on the subject object detection method based on aerial image endpoint segmentation received by unmanned air vehicles in the conditions rough for visualization developed. The large numbers of cars and urban roads and parking places in some crisis situations increase the risk of untimely threat localization. To solve the task of operational capability increase, receiving the reliable data about a situation in places hard to assess in urban areas, the use of unmanned aerial systems become more prospective with implementation of automated means for the object detection, recognition, and classification above ground. Often, one of the reasons making it possible using the visual control principles of UAV landing is the atmospheric fog, smoke over the ground, and imperfect, not adapted for such conditions, methods of object detection at the aerial photo images received by the UAVs. The purpose of the report is to analyze the application of object detection neural network models for UAV image processing in conditions of atmospheric haze and smoke with the further improvement to increase the accuracy of localization and recognition of objects on the ground surface. Smoke is one of the major situation factors which excludes the possibility of using detectors for processing aerial photographs from UAVs. The pan-sharing method, which is based on the use of spatial details injections from panchromatic image to a multispectral image, showed better results for improving the original image in the presence of atmospheric haze or smoke during fires. Pan-sharing methods synthesize images with the same number of spectral channels as the input multispectral image and resolution as in the input panchromatic image. After interpolation from the multispectral image into the panchromatic space, elements are extracted from it and added to the corresponding bands of the multispectral image using the injection model. Panning is pre-selected with a histogram that is radiometrically transformed by constant gain and offset. The injection model defines the combination of the multispectral image low-frequency image with the spatial details of the panchromatic image. This approach is applied to each resampled band of the multispectral image and the low-frequency version of the panchromatic image. This approach is the basis for the decision regarding the survey of infrastructure objects in the epicenter of the fire to improve image quality. For tasks based on CNN ResNeXt in BFPN is used. ResNeXt is high model network architecture with great receptive field due to aggressive convolution. BFPN usage enables to carry out the contribution research of various regional feature cards with simultaneous repeated usage of multi-scale synthesis of features from top downward and bottom upwards. At BFPN pyramid, top deformed CNN DCN is used that adapts the target function to the object geometric variation at aerial image is independent that not all pixels inside the receptive layer field of neural network make contribution into the neural network work result. The suggested approach increases the detection credibility and object recognition at the aerial image. To increase the credibility of object detection and recognition per object image localization increase at the aerial image and bounding boxes adaptation to the object forms the guided anchorage regional proposal network is used. GARPN used often by FPN. Common communication used between the bounding box detection and mask gives limited price, so the cascade application for improvement of detected object localization and their recognition is more efficient solution. The cascade procedure is applied during the conclusion of each stage that enables to coordinate the hypothesis more accurately. To detect the objects, the scene context provides useful recommendations for semantic branches combination for receiving the categories and scales. PPM is used for feature card combination to form the final representation with both local and global information about the context. This approach differs from the existing cascade solutions by regression of bounding box sequence and mask prediction instead of their processing in parallel. Inclusion of direct way to augment the information flow between the mask branches delivery of previous stage peculiarities to the mask direction for study of more contextual information of additional semantic segmentation branch and its alignment with bounding box and mask branches. The sequence of information passing among the cascade stages is displayed by the formula. For approbation of improved model of hybrid segmentation cascade, and in order to study the process according to the task dataset with vehicle detection in aerial images was used. As a result of object distribution, 10 classes of transport vehicles were formed. The object class set is not balanced. Transport vehicle images differ much by dimensions, aspect ratio, distribution by brightness, and color density. While creating the training selection for each class of object by the images for the new dataset from the aerial image, a misbalance of classes arises because of lack of sufficient number of object images. When using the loss function of cross entropy during model training at such datasets, the scale ratio goes to 0 because confidence in correct class grows. According to the results of research held, this solution offers to modify the focal loss method designated to improve the model training at the regional non-balanced data. Model training was conducted from the end to end of 18 epochs. The results obtained are shown in table. As a result of hybrid task cascade model improvement along with image set growth and post-processing, the MAP accuracy was improved by 3%. It enables to increase the small-sized object detection credibility at aerial photos received by UAVs. As far as this approach has little calculation complexity, it enables to implement it on UAV board, the result shown on slide 7. The offered approach, based on the results of existing approaches, analysis of atmospheric direction based on injection model, application of spatial details based on contact, highlighted from panchromatic image into interpolated multispectral band. For the outgoing image correction to solve the infrastructural object analysis task, CARS in the fire epicenter enables to reduce the atmospheric fog or smoke influence on the quality of incoming image of aerial photo processing systems for sufficient level of accurate the object detector. As a result of image automatic processing method analysis, given neural networks exploration to solve the task of scene analysis, aerial images review the influence of object deformations as oscillations was identified while receiving the aerial image and background change, where the object is located. It reduces the accuracy of object detection and recognition based on the review of contemporary neural network models. In the framework of the task, it was selected hybrid task cascade for instance segmentations. It improves the information flow through cascade inclusion and multitasking at each stage that uses indirect signs from topographic elements of terrain to increase credibility of object detection and recognition. Thank you.
Thank you for your interesting report. And now we invite to our discussion. Please, who want? Shabalala, yes, Evgeny.
What do you think? How much the quality of image affect on the result of your model? And the next question, do you think this model can be used for building? Was you able to hear?
Mykola Romanchuk, are you here? One second, please. Yeah, Roman, we are not hear you. It's some technical problems. Roman, we are not hear you.
May I ask questions?
No, not you. Someone else. Roman is an author, and he cannot turn the microphone. Не працює взагалі мікрофон у нього. Віктор Васильович. Roman, 1 second, please. No, it's not our microphone. It's a microphone of Roman. Roman, you may answers in our chat. If you don't may turn the microphone. Okay, we now skip these authors, yes, and we invite next authors. Maybe our previous authors resubmit to ours, yes, and we speak with him. Okay, our next author is Oksana Korenivska. Oksana Korenishka, are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, we are now play our.
Good day, dear guests. A report on the topic IoT monitoring system for microlimit parameters in education institution using edge device is offered to your attention. Also, Oksana Korenivska, Tatiana Nikichuk, Tatiana Vokalyuk, Vasil Benetitsky, Alexander Andreev. Recent years have been defined by the rapid development of information system, Internet of Things technologies, the growth of edge devices, and the development of new sensors for building such systems, which are increasingly being implemented in people's lives, both domestic and social. An essential role in ensuring people's lives is played by the microlimit of the premises where people live, work, and study. As you know, the excess or decrease of the environmental microlimit relative to the norm negatively affects the physiological state of a person, his performance and concentration, and reduce the efficiency of work and training. Therefore, in this work, the problem of round-the-clock monitoring of the microlimit of classrooms is solved by developing an autonomous IoT system using people edge devices to measure climatic parameters such as temperature, relative humidity, carbon dioxide level in the air, and the concentration of light air ions with data recording on a smartphone and saving on a remote server. The development is based on the use of IoT technologies, edge devices, and network technologies. An analysis of materials for monitoring microlimit indicators in education institutions showed that one or two parameters are mainly controlled, usually temperature and humidity, and sometimes atmospheric pressure is also recorded. Thus, the registration of the entire set of parameters recommended by regularity documents doesn't occur simultaneously. There is not control at all of such parameters as a concentration of ozone, nitrogen, and air ion composition of the air. Not all devices also monitoring the level of carbon dioxide in the air. That is, it does not have universal equipment that would control the change in all microlimit parameters that significantly affect the physiological parameters and well-being of a person. Therefore, the article aims to describe developing an IoT system for monitoring the microlimit parameters in a room with the full necessary set of parameters using an edge device that would allow assessing the impact of their change on the physiological state of a person. Taking into account the analysis of the influence of certain indicators of the microlimit on the physiological parameters of applicants for education and employers, of education institutions. A basic set of parameters was formed that need to control, namely, air temperature in the room, indoor air humidity, atmospheric pressure, carbon dioxide concentration, ozone concentration, and the concentration of air ions. Below on the slide, the normal range of change in these indicators according to regulation documents are given. The next slide lists the requirements for system development, namely structurally, the system should contain a sensor until with wireless information transmission. The measurement result will be sent to the central server and the cloud environment, and will also be displayed on the screen in each room. Measurement of information should take place in central time intervals. Control in real time. It should be possible to expand the functionality of the system by connecting additional sensor is necessary. There must be a signal of exciting the normal value of micro-remind parameters, ensuring autonomous power supply of the system and its energy efficiency. The system should be compact and cheap to manufacture. Provision of change of work modes. In general, the device implements two modes of operation. The first is an active measurement mode during study hours, and second is an energy-saving mode, a standby mode at night and non-working days. Display of measurement results on the web server, in the chatbot of the Telegram messenger, and remote control of the system from these environments. The next slide shows the structural diagram of the development monitoring system, which include a set of sensors, a signal preposition until a microcontroller with a built-in analog to digital converter, a signal transmission module to a smartphone, a personal computer, and to the cloud. The next, classically for functional levels can be distinguished in the IoT architecture, which is shown on the slide. The sensor level is the lowest containing a set of sensors that receive information about environmental parameters, providing collection and processing of information in real time. And cause the integration of these devices into the measuring system. At the network level, the means and device of the network infrastructure are considered. The serving level contains a central set of serving designed to store information, create a database automate certain process data exactly. The fourth level of the IoT architecture includes applications for displaying and managing information, as well as the ability to reverse control climate control devices. To implement the sensor level, the following sensors were used: the BME 680 air quality sensor module, which is designed to measure temperature, air humidity, and atmospheric pressure, as well as assess air quality with the corresponding indication, and MHZ19B carbon dioxide sensor, and MQ131 ozone sensor, and a sensor for measuring the concentration of light air ions developed by the author. As a microcontroller for collection and processing information, as control ESP 8266 board were used, containing built-in with Wi-Fi interface and inexpensive, small size, and energy saving. Possible options for the use of various information transmission technologies in similar system are also given. The next slides show the algorithm of the developed system and its output measurement result in the Telegram Messenger chatbot. The developed system allow you to register and provide signals of exceeding the normal value of microlimit indicators, and the possibility of reverse regulation of microlimit parameters is described in software. Currently, work is underway to write software and develop a website to display the result of measuring microlimit parameters in real time. The proposed system is composite subsystem of the health self-saving environment of education institutions, which contain a subsystem for collecting and analyzing human physiological indicators. A database includes network technologies and software. The result obtained in the work will allow development measured to ensure the necessary normal condition for training in confined space. Thank you for your attention. I look forward to your questions.
Thank you for your interesting report. And one note that for previous author, you can ask the question in the chat to Mykola Romanchuk, and he's right that he had a problem with microphone. Please ask your question in the chat, and Mykola, прошу, sorry, Mykola answers the question in the chat too. So, who has a question to this author? Oksana, please.
Thank you. Of the data technologies on the type 3, do you use in your development?
Ваш микрофон выключен.
Sorry. We used the university's own resources. Own resources, so we use the wireless sensors network with Wi-Fi technologies for data transmission. It meets our needs for range and speed of data transfer. In addition, modern microcontrollers already have built-in Wi-Fi transmitters and receivers, which simplifies the construction and configuration of the system.
Thank you. Who have any questions?
I have a questions.
Please.
What is the difference between the measurement modes, operational mode, and low energy mode given in the work algorithm?
Thank you for your question. The operating mode performs measurements with a higher frequency since it's used during working hours, when here are classes with students. The low energy mode, they call it standby mode. The system goes into energy saving mode. The frequency for recording signals will be different. For example, in the first mode, data is read every 5 minutes. In the second mode, once every half hour, or even less often.
Thank you. Someone
I have questions. What will the final product of your collaborative development look like, and that will its functionality be?
Thanks. The final product will be a system that allows you to register the functional indicators of a person and at the same time monitor the change in the microclimate parameters in the premises where classes are held. It will have its own database. This system will make it possible to analyze the impact of the microclimate of students and develop recommendations for the improvement of education facilities that can increase the effectiveness of training.
Thank you for your answers. And thank you for interesting report. Evgeny Shapovalov, you want to answer the question to to Mykola Romanchuk, previous answers. Are you here? Evgeny Shapovalov? No. Okay.
I remember questions and then can answer.
Oh, please. We are listening to you.
The question was about image that we use. We analyze images and the resolution of image is enough for using object detection algorithm. And after that, we decide to use object detection and our object detection algorithm, and the result shows the good result.
Okay, thank you. And maybe Roman Kukharchuk want to ask the question, this author.
What's the main idea of using a cascade approach for the prognosis detector?
Thank you for question. We use in dataset which has imbalanced class as shown on 5 slide. And for decision this problem, we use cascade application for improvement of detection object localization and then recognition in more object their recognition. The cascade produced is applied during the conclusion of each stage that enable to coordinate the hypothesis more accurately.
Okay,
Yeah,
thanks.
that is the main idea.
Thank you.
Thank you. We are very thank you for your questions, for your also report. And we have one more report. We will skip his previous and we turn to him. It's Evgeny Turyansky and his report for the system for testing different values of the PHP.
Hello, my name is Evgeny. Today I will present you a system for testing different versions of PHP. Objects and goals of the research. Object is defines the productivity of different types of operations in PHP. The goal is to develop a system by results of which we can define the most productive version of PHP. Among the tasks are analysis of differences between executions in range of PHP versions, design the productivity analysis system, implement it, and then analyze the obtained results. PHP is a widely used language for web applications. It occupies more than 78% of the market. Its development began back in 1994 by Rasmus Lindberg. PHP is an open source language. That means that any user can contribute in developing it. The syntax of PHP is similar to C, and some of the functionality is borrowed from Perl. Also, the language supports OOP. When we come to design system, it must be easy in use, be ready to expand, and have an option to select from which modules will be run. For this project, it was selected that application will be accessible both from terminal and web page. For web implementation, Nginx was picked as a web server, and the implementation of the system was done using OOP. Before we can get to the system structure, we need to define what exactly is the point of the research. So we can divide PHP versions by its security, functionality, but also speed of executions. This is why we have several modules for the system that are provided for us time measurement of some different functions. For example, modules of math and string functions and disk write module. These modules are responsible for CPU math operations, CPU string conversions, and disk write operations as well. That type of operations are most handled during the PHP execution time and might take less or more time. It depends on the version of PHP you're using right now. Also, there are several other modules, such as module for parsing configuration file. It will provide information from the actual configuration file about the modules that we are about to use and their parameters. PHP module, which is actually provides current PHP versions and max allowed file size that is used by PHP at the time. Time measuring module provides the amount of spent time per operation, and display info module shows obtained results on the screen. On this slide, you can see project tree configuration file. So configuration file contains all the module names and their parameters. For example, CPU means that we will enable CPU module with math operations that will be ran 99,999. Same for strings, loops, and if-else statements. As for project tree, it was built in the way you can see on the screen. So configuration directory contains configuration file and its loader. Generic folder contains all the submodules that are subordinate functions for the benchmark and it's supporting its execution. And the module contains the modules themselves. As one of the results, so once you run the system once, you will see the result as you can see now on the screen. You will see the PHP version, maximum size of files that is allowed to be written. And also you will see the operations and time execution of each of them in seconds. So you can see that we have written several amounts of files, several amounts of size of files. We ran an amount of math operations and string conversions. Also, we measured the amount of time that is necessary for loop operations and if-else statements, and also for random SQL query. When it comes to comparing the results, unfortunately, it is not possible to do it under the same system because the system must be run on one PHP version at a time and it cannot be changed during the runtime. When it comes to comparing the results, we have a graph of 3 columns. Each represents one version of PHP. So the light green is 5.6, the dark green is 7.3, and the yellow one is 8.0. When it comes to discrete operations, the measurement always in seconds, but the lower is better because the less time we spent on writing, apparently it's better. So as you can see, 8.0 is faster than its predecessors. The same thing becomes for CPU math operations. And as you can see, 5.6 was struggling compared to 7.3 and 8.0. Same thing for CPU string conversion tests. 5.6 was significantly slower than other versions of PHP. Same comes for loop operations and if-else statements. As you can see, it takes now significantly less time than in 5.6 and 7.3. As a conclusion, PHP will continue to be a popular language for foreseeable future. It is used for web development, and PHP 8 has become faster and more reliable. Compared to previous versions, PHP 8 has many new and useful features such as JIT compiler, bug fixes, and etc. Bench as a benchmark system was developed for different versions of PHP, which can be extended by other modules if necessary. The results of the system operations is time data reflecting the speed of the selected PHP version. These results might not convince the developer to keep the PHP version up to date, but may give them a focus on improvements they might seek to achieve using older versions. In addition to that, 7.3 and I believe 7.4 are already not supported, so they are considered outdated and shouldn't be used. Thanks for your attention.
Is In the chat here. Evgeny, are you here?
Yeah, I'm here. Hi.
Okay, thank you for interesting report. And I have a question for you. How do you think your research will influence the development of edge computing?
As I mentioned, I think it might not make developers the decision to upgrade the existing version, but still it's a next step anyways. They will have to update it someday initially.
Okay, thank you. Maybe someone want to ask the question? Okay, we know her questions, and we thank you for your interesting report and thank you for your answers. And we, due to some reasons, the one after cannot join and cannot download the video. Let me present his research. Some moments. One moment, please. Okay, we have one more review article with the title Common Vulnerabilities in Real-World Web Application. Let me briefly present this article. Okay, for practically even part of our life, we use web application. Numerous web apps are being developed and used, which is expanding the possibility of application security issues. Attacks on web apps are occurring more frequently now than ever before. Every time a modification is made to the architecture of a web application, there is a potential that new vulnerabilities may be created. If this happens, an attacks could infect the system and leak data that could be fatal to the organization. Understanding the typical weakness in a web application and the methods that may be used to minimize them is crucial for finding a solution to these issues. In this article, the author looked at major security threats that might affect web application in the real world, including a request forgery attack, injection attack, cryptographic failures, and broken access control mechanism. The author examined these attacks on modern web frameworks, which are widely used nowadays to create web applications. This study is based on the OWASP Top 10, a list of the most common and serious security threats to web applications. The authors also study the best security practice recommended by professionals after each attack category that should be followed to prevent the attack. So, for example, if we speak about SQL injection, the method to prevent SQL injection attacks is parameterized queries, whitelisting, employee verified mechanism. So, if we speak about cryptographic failures, then methods to prevent cryptographic failures is one, use, update, and establish cryptographic functions, algorithms, and protocols. Follow security standards defined for choosing case and implement key rotation. Use authentication encryption instead of plain encryption. And for other attacks, after described methods to their prevents in this article. In this paper, authors studied injection attacks such as SQL injection and XSS, request forgery attack, cryptographic failures, and broken access control mechanism. The author also discussed ways to prevent these attacks from happening in real-world web application. We already, who want, can listening this, read this article in the proceeding after the published. So this our last last article, and I want to say you some about the conference. Today we have a third edge computing workshop, and today in our workshop a total of 32 participants took part, including Inner Circle Netherlands 1, Корольов Житомир Military Institute 8, National Center of Junior Academy of Science of Ukraine 2, National University Zaporizhia Polytechnic 3, Alexander Dovzhenko Glukhiev National Pedagogical University 3, State Scientific and Technical Library of Ukraine 3, Ukrainian Scientific Center for Information Development Technologies 1, Valery Institute of Technology 1, and Zhytomyr Polytechnic State University 10. And now I will invite all authors who presented their materials today to submit a 30% expanded version of the article for publication in the new Journal of Edge Computing. All requests for such article will be sent to authors after 10 April for Monday, Thursday. Okay, we now ask everyone to turn off the cameras for group photography. Please turn your cameras off to make our group photography, please. Зробіть, щоб всі було видно там на екранчику. Please turn the cameras, all of us. І скріншотик зробіть, зараз включить камеру. Окей, Оксана, Андрій, Анатолійович, Олена, Руслан, Валерійович, Євгеній Шаповалов, please turn the cameras yours. Okay, we are truly thank everyone for participant in the workshop, and we are also waiting for all of you in our next conference and workshop, and we wait your expanded version of your article to our journal, and we hope that you make all of that expanded your version for 30%. Thank you, everyone, and goodbye. Maybe who wants? Можливо, хтось ще хоче для запису сказати декілька слів.